Welcome to Nassau COBA Monthly, August 2021 edition. My name is Brian Sullivan. I'm the president of the Nassau County Correctional Officers Benevolent Association. I am here with John Hogan, second vice president of the Nassau County Correctional Officers Benevolent Association. Say hello, John.
How we doing, everybody?
All right. Just before we get started, make sure your phone's on no ring and all stuff like that. We'll get started. We got a lot to go through. I'm going to do 3 sections today, and got a couple of different topics that I want to talk about. First, right out of the box, is contract. It's the beginning of August, and we've had several conversations with different people who don't really, between the information that we're giving to our delegates and stuff that we're getting out to our members. We have the COBA union office on the jail staffed every Thursday afternoon, and I try to send out information. There's a little bit of misinformation coming back about where exactly we are with contract negotiations, but I want to assure everybody that we are in full swing in contract negotiations. We're going pretty much nose to nose with the I almost said arbitrator, but with the negotiator for the county. We're making a lot of progress. We think that sometime soon, hopefully, we're going to have a product to bring to our members. There's a lot of issues that we're going over that I'm not really going to get into in this podcast because things change all the time, and I'm not going to put something out there that ends up changing 3 times, and it's, we've been down that road before. The one thing that I want to address when it comes to this contract negotiations is that I'm hearing a little bit of stuff that comes back that people turning down anything that comes their way. No matter what the union brings you, you got to turn it down, or you always turn down the first contract negotiation. The product that comes, you always turn down the first one. You always turn down the first one, or we're turning down anything you give us. It's coming from a certain segment, of our membership, and I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just saying that I just don't understand that mindset. That I really don't know where that stuff comes from. It doesn't really make any sense. How can anybody say that without having anything to look at? You don't have any kind of a product in front of you, and we're talking about you always turn down the first one, you always do whatever. That just doesn't make any sense to me. The one thing that gets me every time is I've been doing this union stuff for a long time. I just finished 33 years on the job last year, and I get that this is a very negative job. And, there's not a lot of good that goes on here. We're dealing with the worst that our society has to offer. We're always on the short end of the stick when it comes to county politics and county budgets and between us and the police department. But it's just the negativity that comes out of the gate without having any facts or information. I get the old joke that goes on here is, if you heard it in the OM, it must be true. You can't run on rumors here, and it's really gotten bad here lately, where people just fly on rumors and whip themselves up into a frenzy and try to get other people whipped up without having any real facts or information that goes on. That's one of the main reasons why I had the union office staffed every Thursday, because when people are coming in for lineups and stuff, and I want them to be able to talk to executive board members any questions that they have, and it did seem to quell a lot of it, but this stuff still comes out.
A lot of times, Brian, a lot of guys, I was talking to a couple of guys the other day, a lot of them think this is the first time we're talking.
Right.
This is the first proposal. And I'm trying to tell them, this is like the 9th revision or the 9th option that we've been going back and forth for 3.5 years on.
Right. And we've, we funnel a lot of information to our delegates, and I know that it's getting out. It's, sometimes things are twisted for whatever purposes. Sometimes people just like to watch the world burn and create controversy. But this is, there's been a ton of negotiation that's gone on here, and we're trying to get the best contract possible we can get for our members in one of the toughest times. We're still under, since 2011, we're under a control period with NIFA. The county is not in control of their own finances. NIFA is. And that's why we're actually in a room negotiating with a NIFA guy, with the county involved, with us involved, our attorneys. I certainly hope that everyone really understands the difficulty in trying to negotiate a contract like that. And NIFA's not going anywhere anytime soon. They got surpluses in the budget, all of this kind of stuff. They got a ton of money from the federal government. I talk about it all the time. the county's sitting on a ton of money. But that's all, and I try to stress this to people, it's one-shots. And it goes back to when the county used to sell off land, or when they got the tobacco settlement, where they got hundreds of millions of dollars back in the 90s. That's all one-shots that it goes in the bank, but it's like a savings account that they end up dipping and dipping and dipping. And I'm going to get into something after, a little bit more about that I spoke at the legislature. But it's the recurring revenue, it's the recurring budgetary stuff that is how you negotiate a contract with the county, depending on the out years, making sure that the county has money in the out years and throughout the life of your contract, to make sure that everybody is taken care of and we don't have any more nonsense with freezes and all that stuff going forward. Another issue that came up with the contracts is, I saw recently, and there was some stuff on social media, is about comparing us with Suffolk County. Suffolk County just signed a deal in 2019. Everybody has to realize we're out of a contract since the end of 2017. Suffolk County signed a deal in 2019 that ends December 31st, 2024. And people are saying how far Suffolk County is ahead of us, and they've got this is better and that's better. That all looks great when you look at it in a snapshot or on a recruitment photo that the Sheriff's Department and Suffolk County sends out in Suffolk County. That all sounds great, but you're looking at 2024 numbers in a different county. That's great. Their base pay, people are saying the base pay is $124,000. The base pay is not $124,000. The base pay is $110,000 after 12 years in 2024 in Suffolk County. There's a lot of other stuff that goes into it, much like we do. I know our longevity issue is still up in the air. It's a constant problem we have. But when you add in holiday pay, uniform allowance, shift differential, stuff like that, that does boost up the base pay. But the base pay itself that you have to look at is what all of your, we call it spins. That's what the spins come off of, what your overtime rate is, what, a lot of your holiday pay, a lot of other things, education pay, that all comes off your base pay. And that's the stuff that we're negotiating in a contract, which is one of the hardest things that we're doing, because we have, the world has changed so much, and we don't just have tier 4 people here anymore. You have everybody getting hired on this job now. It's past tier 5. You're hiring tier 6 people that don't get to include much overtime in their final average salaries for pension purposes. And I know people are new on the job, or there's new people coming on the job, or you're halfway through your career. What the unions strive for is the best benefits and pay available to you throughout your career. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to all your pensionable stuff, the stuff that's going to take care of you for the rest of your life. Because trust me when I tell you, 25 years comes fast on this job. Sometimes it seems like it's going to take forever. You're never going to get there. I started this job and I was 22 years old, and you had to work here till you were 62 before we had the 25-year retirement. I turned around, I blinked my eyes, I was here 12 years, I blinked my eyes again, I was here 25 years, blinked my eyes again, and I just finished 33. So when you look at comparisons, you have to compare things fairly. Now, one of the two of the biggest things that comes up into this is paying into health benefits, stuff like that. Suffolk County has been paying into health benefits since 2011, I believe. The 2010 is the overtime. They've been paying into the health benefits, and they go up to 2.5% by 2025 in their new contract. It's that's the thing that started all this stuff years ago, when Suffolk County cracked the porcelain on this, and the Suffolk PBA did that. And because they don't get, the members out there and the workers in Suffolk County don't get to vote in their contract on their medical benefits. That's controlled by a separate board that has the union leaders on it. It has county people on it, and you're pretty much dictated to what your health benefits are going to be out there. And they broke the seal back in 2011 when they had people cashing in.
A lot of guys didn't understand that the other day when I was walking around the building. They didn't understand that they had a separate board that controlled all of Suffolk County. And that was it's a real big deal.
And the members have no say.
They have no say whatsoever.
The other big issue in Suffolk County that a lot of people don't realize is that since 2010, Suffolk County, in a binding arbitration award, has FLSA overtime restrictions. that means that they have to work, I believe it's 86 hours in a 2-week pay period before you're eligible for overtime. Now, that means if you say you bang in sick twice on a 8 to 4, when you come back, you have to make up those 2 days at straight time and work 86 hours in a pay period before you're eligible for overtime. We don't have that, and that's not changing here. What we have is you get overtime for anything past your normal, regular daily tour. And then obviously whatever else goes into a days off and however however people get their overtime. But that's a huge problem that happened out in Suffolk County that we're not even addressing that in Nassau County, and that's a problem that came up due to binding arbitration. Just think about that. You bang it 2 days because you're sick, or you bang it because you got the the eye flu or something. You come back, you have to make up that time at straight time before you get any kind of overtime. The one thing that I've seen is that the oppressive scheduling here in the overtime, it's without a doubt frying a lot of people out. But you have to look at the bigger picture. We've been fighting here for the last several years about the staffing. It all goes into the bail reform stuff. How these correctional and sheriff's departments across the state have all shrunk with the inmate population, and the municipalities all wanted to see where the level was going to be, where it leveled off with the inmate population. That's why they just didn't hire. And of course, you go back to when Spazzato was here and all of his craziness, that they just didn't want to hire people. They always thought it was cheaper to pay overtime. But then you get to a certain point where people aren't going home for days at a time or working triples. We can't allow that to go on. It's unsafe. People are going to get hurt. You're going to be falling asleep on your post. You can't be watching the caliber of inmates that are here now working doubles every day or more. You have to look at the bigger picture. Now, one source of negativity that I think came out of this recently is with all of the overtime, all the forced overtime, the department made a change in people that had no order notes. There were several people complained that no orders, that the department, they canceled people that had no order notes. They were on no order lists. The department canceled them and requested new updated information from these people. I can't say that I necessarily disagree with this, because the amount of forced overtime here, the same people that are getting ordered every day, getting hammered day after day after day, while a relatively small group of people are not getting ordered based on requests that they have from 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. It's not fair. It's not fair to the people that are getting hammered every day. Everybody with a no ordered note is getting reviewed for up-to-date information and need. And I had meetings and conversations with the sheriff. God forbid somebody's at home, they have a sick child, somebody's got cancer, you're taking care of somebody. Of course they're gonna make accommodations for you. Or if say you're going away on a trip somewhere tomorrow and you're leaving at 7 o'clock in the morning, accommodations will be made to make sure you're not gonna get stuck for a midnight. And we'll fight for that every day. But we also have countless complaints from our members. I mean, I can't even explain to you the countless numbers of complaints we've got from our members about getting hammered all the time while other people are not. They walk away unscathed. And I know we represent everybody, and it's a bit of a shit sandwich to say you gotta pick one over the other. But everybody knows what this job is. You got hired here. It's a 24/7 operation. Some people that apparently may have had other jobs that they needed to get to. They got a no order list. They got childcare issues. I'm sorry, I don't represent you in your other job. And everybody on this job has childcare issues. At some point, probably 90% of the people on this job are going to have childcare issues. It's something that you have to work out. If everybody here that got childcare issues, who's going to staff the place? Somebody has to staff this place. Again, like I said, fair is fair. It's a 27 operation. Everybody knows walking in the door. If you're a relatively new officer, and I've said this to our senior people numerous times, when you start looking at the bigger picture and realize that where a lot of negativity is coming, I get it. Some people don't like the union. They don't like me. I don't sit here and pretend that people like, 100% of my members like me. Some people probably want to punch me in the face half the time. John Hogan wants to punch me in the face half the time he talks to me. But I noticed you didn't answer up. You didn't answer up on that.
I'm good.
Yeah, so much for jumping in front of a bullet. But there are some people, and it's not unique to this job. I talk to plenty of other union leaders with the police and with CSEA. Some people just like to watch the world burn. Other people want to make their issue your issue. So while most of us here just want to come to work, provide for our families, and be left alone, all I can say is that when a contract comes, and I know I kind of took the long way around here, when a contract comes, make your own decisions, especially with any contract that's going to become to you. You have to look at it from your perspective. If somebody's crowing from the top of a floor somewhere that the world is on fire and everything sucks, just step back for a second and think, why? Is that my issue? Is that somebody else's issue? Or if I look at this contract with my own independent mind, my own independent thought, you each have your own vote. That's why it goes to you for a vote. We bring you a product that we think is the best for you at the time that we're doing, especially in a wait, not God Almighty, I almost said a wage freeze, especially in a control period with NIFA, where the county's not in control, after a pandemic, after all this nonsense, after bail reform. We're not going to bring you something in a contract that we don't think is the best thing that we could have possibly negotiated for everybody, that doesn't benefit you as much as we possibly can. With that, I'm going to take a pause here. We'll come back with a couple of other segments. Again, this is Nassau COBA Monthly. Brian Sullivan and John Hogan. We'll see you in a second. Okay, welcome back to Nassau COBA Monthly. It is the August 2021 edition, and this is the second portion of what we're going to talk about here. One big thing that happened this week was the contentious hearing over at the legislature regarding the Nassau County Human Rights and Anti-Discrimination Law when it comes to law enforcement and first responders in Nassau County. I want to make perfectly clear to all of our members what my intention was in supporting this bill. And it's simple. All politics out of it. As the union president, I want every single tool in the toolbox available to us to protect correction officers from aggressive or violent or menacing inmates. With everything that's gone on in the state with bail reform, discovery, etc., officers getting assaulted, inmates walking away from charges, this is why I wanted to have another tool in the box, which on this level is a civil law, just like we needed the e-felony for inmates throwing bodily fluids at you, which is a criminal law. But maybe, just maybe, if an inmate thinks he'll actually be civilly liable, not just criminally liable, for committing some act against a correction officer, and it has to be as defined in the penal law, and then you pivot onto the civil end of it, is harassment is where you are actually in physical fear for your safety, physical fear for your life. If an inmate menaces you in some manner in the course of your duties, either with a weapon or without, assaults you, that they'll think twice before doing it. To me, it's a complete leveling of the playing field. I just got notice this morning before we started this, and I don't have all the information, that one of the inmates that was involved in the assault of one of our officers his bail was revoked, that he was held on, and he was freed. He was let out.
That was $100,000 bail too.
$100,000 bail, and the judge dropped the bail, and the guy walked out the door. He's involved in an assault on a correction officer. Now, first and foremost, to me, the public should know that if a guy that thinks he can put hands on a correction officer or a cop or anybody else, what is he going to do to the average citizen walking around the street if he thinks he can put a hand on people in uniform? It's a disgrace what's going on in this country. Everybody here knows that I've been ranting and raving about bail reform, discovery reform, the criminal justice system, everything else that's gone on in this state. It all began with, when I was talking about arraignment court, letting people out of arraignment courts. I used to try to get the cops involved, and a lot of the cops would say, well, that's really a you issue. You guys just want more inmates in the jail. Everything that I predicted, and I'm not saying I'm Nostradamus, came true. They let all these inmates out of jail. Look at all the crime that's going on. I mean, Nassau County is still relatively safe compared to everything else, but I love when they talk about the USA Today thing that Nassau County is the safest county in the country. That was a 2019 article, pre-COVID, pre-bail reform, pre-letting everybody loose in the streets. You have heavy-duty drug dealers, Gun crimes are up everywhere. The guy Jed Painter, that's the ADA for the Nassau County DA's office, sat there 2 years in a row talking about how crime is up in every category in this state, in this county. And you know, you can do whatever you want with statistics, and you can make it look good, especially in election years. But we all see what's going on all the time, and what's going, especially in the city, which is right next door. And if anybody thinks that that's not translating over here, you're deluding yourself. What happened the other day at the legislature, though, was terrible because, in my mind, and I put out a thing last night. I actually got interviewed. This guy from Chicago, an ABC affiliate, asked me to, because this whole thing went across the country, and I tried to explain it with them too. Is that the bill wasn't really explained correctly, and a lot of misinformation went out about this. This whole thing is about people who are in the course of whatever they're doing, they're committing unlawful acts, or it's not about peaceful protest or your First Amendment right to free speech. You want to stand out in a street corner and you're protesting the police. You want to scream "fuck the police." You want to scream whatever, "fuck the cops," fuck Nassau County correctional officers. The First Amendment protects you. It protects you 100%. It's what goes on after that when you have, and we've seen it in a lot of these protests across the country, there's a criminal element that comes in and destroys it for everybody. You have people in the city that were throwing bricks and things at cops on that one poor cop, the lieutenant, got hit in the head with a brick on the bridge. You saw the stuff that went on in all these different cities around. People have a righteous right to protest anything in the world that they want, and I've done it myself. I said at the legislature, I've protested at the legislature about bullshit that the county's done with us, contracts and things that have gone wrong at the jail, and who knows, we may be out there again at some point protesting. That does not give anybody the right to menace you, assault you, to threaten your life or anything like that, and they think that they can walk away with no consequences whatsoever. It's all about people who commit unlawful acts, nothing about peaceful protests. What made me particularly angry the other day is, why shouldn't correction officers, law enforcement officers, cops, EMTs, first responders, ambulance drivers, how should we not want or have the same basic human rights afforded to us that are afforded to the average Joe on the street? When I asked that question the other day, I stood up there and I, you know, as I'm apt to do, I pontificate with different stuff and I get my chops broken about it. But when I asked that question the same day, why should I not be afforded the same exact human rights and dignity and protection from discrimination as anybody else? Somebody in the crowd yelled out, "No, you don't." I don't. I'm a human being. I'm a county employee. I'm entitled to, like I said, human. I'm entitled to the same basic human rights as everybody else. But just because I wear a uniform, I'm not entitled to the same basic human rights. I'm sorry. Screw you. That's not what this country's about. Get lost. This bill has nothing to do with stopping anybody's free speech or their right to civilly protest. It's about holding people accountable who commit crimes or unlawful acts against those of us in uniform. And yes, that does translate over to us in corrections, because if you have, like I said in the beginning of this part, you need every tool in the toolbox you could use against it. And if just one inmate thinks twice that, you know, maybe he's going to get hit with some sort of a civil penalty or he's going to have to pay out of his pocket because of what he's about to do from some CEO, if he doesn't do that, this was all worth it. You know, politics aside, it's all about protecting us and getting as much protection as possible. Now, that kind of spins into the way I'm hoping the world kind of swings back the other way. The pendulum has been swinging so far in one direction that the world's really kind of spinning out of control. But you look at Eric Adams in the city. The guy, he won the Democratic primary for mayor, which pretty much means he's going to be the presumptive mayor in the election. He ran in the primary against several far left progressives, and we all know where I stand on those. I'm not going to beat anybody to death. Eric Adams was the only one that actually stood up and said He's a former, I have not always agreed with Eric Adams. I don't like a lot of his politics. But he stood up and said he's a former law enforcement officer. He's a retired captain of the New York City Police Department. He said that the gun violence, the gun problem in the city has to be addressed. The violence in the streets has to be addressed. The subway crime, all the stuff that's going on in our next door neighbor. And like I said, if you think it's not spilling over here, you're not paying attention. But he won. He won the primary in that crazy city with all those lunatic liberals in there. He won on a platform of law and order and basically said, I'm a retired cop. I don't feel safe. We have to address it. I think he's going to address the anti-crime unit, put them back out there to get the guns off the street. He said he's going to wear his gun to work every day. Can you imagine Bill de Blasio wearing a gun to work every day? He just has all cops surrounding him while he bashes them. But the pendulum has to swing back the other way and get back to some normalcy. And that's basically all there is to it. I mean, it was really amazing to me, and we deal with so much politics in Albany, and it really did have a ripple effect. Talking to all of our friends in Albany, and you know what friends we do have in Albany, but there's a lot of people that we deal with. It really was an eye opener that a guy like Eric Adams, who ran on a law and order platform, is going to be the presumptive mayor of New York City, and I certainly hope that it's the beginning of righting the ship to try and get back to some sort of normalcy. I'm going to swing out. We're going to take another quick break. That's the second. I have one more section that we're going to talk about at the end. We'll be right back with Nassau COBA Monthly. Okay, welcome back. Nassau COBA Monthly, August 2021 edition. Brian Sullivan, John Hogan. I'm going to swing into the last of our three topics now, just for a couple of minutes. I want to talk about some anomalies that have come out of discovery reform. And it's funny, during the break, John and I were talking about some of the upcoming races, like the DA's race with Todd Kaminsky is one of the senators that was involved with the bail reform, and then Ann Donnelly from the DA's office, she's running against him on the Republican side. We had both of them in our office, and we pretty much grilled the two of them. We haven't come out with any decisions yet, but it was an interesting dynamic when we had them in the office.
Todd is one of the architects of that bail reform. Right. I mean, he's on the hook for it.
Right. I have to say he's a polished politician, and he had an answer for all the reasons of what he did, why he was involved, and things like that, and about fighting the far lefties and all of that. And I had a lot of issues with it, but we'll see. Once we this election process goes down a little bit, I want to start letting people let everything gel first before we come out and we make any of our endorsements or anything else. But
he didn't try to bullshit us.
He didn't. He sat
he
here
really didn't.
And I'll give him credit that he didn't try to bullshit. He took a bit of a hard questioning, and he had answers for everything else. But we'll see where it all goes. The last part that I want to talk about here, and it's something that I want to make sure that everybody on this job is innately in touch with. In consultation with our law enforcement partners in Nassau County and Suffolk County, particularly in Suffolk County, and our attorneys, we found out that one of the wrinkles in the new discovery laws, and particularly in today's electronics world, has produced some concerning developments. It's not the good old days where you could just say and do whatever you want, and there's no record of it that can be used against you or whatever else. Not that that's what I'm defending, but as we all know, electronic communications in criminal cases can be subpoenaed by courts and DAs in various criminal cases. Maybe what we didn't realize is that personal cell phones and like 911 calls, if you call 911 on a personal cell phone, that can be also used as evidence, or whatever you're saying or doing on your personal cell phone can be used as evidence. It can be subpoenaed. It could literally be confiscated. There was a case just a couple of years ago about Apple. I forget it was a big, like a national case. I forget whether it had something to do with potential terrorism. And Apple refused to let the Justice Department crack into somebody's phone because of like privacy issues and things with their customer base. They didn't want their customer base thinking that they would let anybody crack into their phones when a phone was locked. But what we've seen and what our attorneys are telling us is that courts are allowing the subpoena of cell phone records. We've all heard this in stories before. You see a lot of the big cases that are cell phone records, text messages, photographs that are on your phone. It can all be subpoenaed and used in criminal cases. So the one thing that I want to try and stress with our members here, say you're driving home and you come across an accident, or maybe you're on an outside post or on a transportation run upstate, and you have permission to use your cell phone to be in communications. We all know cell phones aren't allowed in the jail. But you have permission, say you're driving upstate and you have your personal cell phone, and you come across some kind of an incident. Either you're involved in an accident, you come across with an incident, you have a problem with the inmate that you're transporting, and you use your cell phone either to call for help or to take a photo of something. That phone can be called into question. Say the inmate can tell his lawyer, say he does whatever else. He's in the back of the van. The officers all have their cell phones, even the jail cell phones that they issue you. The officer was on the phone. That inmate or that defendant's attorney can subpoena that cell phone, and it can be called into question, subpoenaed by the defendant's criminal defense attorney. They can then have access to whatever's on your phone, to all your photos, your apps, your texts, your phone contact lists. There have been cases, like I said, the whole Apple case, but we found that the courts have been letting phones be subpoenaed in cases like this. Now, the only thing I can tell you is if you're in a situation like that and you have a radio, a departmental radio, use the radio first. Use your cell phone as a last resort. Of course, when it's in a life and death situation, you're going to do whatever you got to do. But when you have to keep it in the back of your mind, you're driving home, maybe you have your uniform shirt on, you shouldn't have that. We tell people all the time, you stop at 7-Eleven, you become involved in something that, God forbid, there's a robbery and you're there and you get involved and you call, those phone calls, texts, or anything else can be brought into play, and it doesn't necessarily narrow right down to what the phone call that you made. They can say they want to see if you took pictures at the scene. The defense lawyer will say, maybe you took pictures that exonerate my defendant. Maybe you sent a text message that exonerates my defendant. And God forbid, you have some stupid nonsense on your phone that you don't want out there. That's going to become a problem. So the best thing I can say is you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that girl. Prudence is the order of the day. Just be smart. Just be smart when it comes to your personal information. You don't want anything out there. I'm going to wrap it up there. I don't know if John has anything. I think I beat everything to death here.
You're pretty good.
I think John's, he was going to fall back in his chair because he didn't get to say too much of this. It was a lot of pontificating. But take care, everybody. I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer. We'll have another one in September. And that's it for the August edition of Nassau COBA Monthly.
The only thing I do have to say is please remember that we're there every Thursday from 2 o'clock to 5. I think this time we're in the satellite. This week, for the next couple of weeks, we're in the satellite. So we'll be going back and forth.
Right.
And please stop in, ask any question you have, especially to the newer guys. We have a lot of information, and you better have a lot of questions. All right?
The only dumb question is the one that's not asked, especially with all this contract stuff that's coming up. All right, take care, everybody. Stay safe.